Here.
Joseph Paduzzi. Maria Marino is excused. Chelsea Reed.
Here.
Thank you. Additionally, I have the following member asking to participate remotely due to extenuating circumstances. Marcy Woodward, Palm Beach County Commissioner, is requesting to participate remotely.
Absolutely. All right. So,
Moved.
yeah, thank you. Excellent. And do we have a second from, so we have a first for
Second.
Baxter and a second from
Drucker,
Drucker.
second.
Thank you, guys. Yes, let's do that. It's so hard to see everybody on the periphery. If you could say your last name before your motions, that would be great. Any issue with having Commissioner Woodward participate remotely? Do we need a vote on that? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And Commissioner Woodward, we look forward to hosting you. If you need anything, just put up your hand and Ruth will let us know that we need to put a card up for you.
For the record, Rob Long joined the meeting at 9:34 a.m.
All right. And I do believe we have Commissioner Paduzzi coming in. So we'll keep an eye on that. If you guys could, we're going to take a moment today. We've had a tremendous loss to our community. So we were alerted over the weekend that our colleague and former chair of the TPA, Fred Pinto, passed away. And so what we'd like to do today is after we have the Pledge of Allegiance, we're going to have a moment of silence. And we've asked Jeff Amara to just speak about him briefly. Thank you. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Vice Mayor Hamara.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, it's an understatement to say that we are deeply saddened by the loss of Mayor Fred Pinto. Mayor Pinto has served the community well as mayor for more than 6 years, but his total time on the council was more than 20 years. So he brought a commitment to our community that was extraordinary and has shown up in many ways. But that's not the only service that Mayor Pinto was involved in. In his 73 years of life, he spent more than 40 years in public service. The first 20 years was with the Army Reserve, where he rose to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel and served during the first Gulf War. So service was always a part of Fred's life, and transportation was a big issue for him, one that he recognized like few others do. And so when I think about his loss, I think about his loss in terms that are relatable to the TPA. And then I also think about another sudden loss that we had a couple of years ago when Clinton Ford died as well. And so this community of transportation-oriented folks, the TPA, the MPO before it, I'm sure will grieve the loss of the creativity and the innovation that Fred brought. One of the characteristics that come to mind when I think about Fred is he was always in search of an opportunity, a possibility, and that was for the village in many ways. And that's where the transportation issue became so near and dear to his heart. So to say the least, we are saddened. We have sent our condolences and had many conversations with his wife, Danielle, his sons, and his family. And of course, during this period of grieving, it is surprising how it impacts you. And so far, I've been doing pretty good. I haven't choked up. But when you sit next to somebody for 6 years and when you work with them for 13 years, they really become connected to you. And so he's going to be missed. He set us on a great path. We're headed in a good direction, and now it's in our hands to carry it. So I thank you all for all of the expressions of sadness and caring and love. So he will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well said. It won't be the same without him. We do need to move on, though. Do we have any modifications to the agenda today?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, so we'll move right along to item 1D, which is public comments. Instructions on how to provide public comment is included in our agenda. Do we have any public comment today?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, lovely. So we'll move right on to comments from the chair and members. So does anyone from the board have anything they'd like to say at all? If so, just pop up your card. Okay, Mayor Koretsky?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, our town had decided to move forth with establishing quiet zones. I was in the minority on that simply because of my core value of Vision Zero. We don't yet have some fencing up, but nonetheless, we're proceeding with the majority request. And it was just interesting, and this is what I wanted to share, because, you know, we thought we did everything, you know, all the improvements were up. And then an FRA inspector gave us, I don't know, it was about 10 pages of stuff that had to be done. And it was an eye opener because I would submit, and I'm sharing this with everybody, I would submit that a lot of them were maintenance, signage that had faded, you know, trees that had blocked signage. And, you know, it's kind of unfortunate that it took this for us to realize that. But I share that with everybody else to the south that has had quiet zones for quite some time. And I hope that's part of the process, you know, that the FRA would, or whoever would actually inspect for those other things, because it really just caught us by surprise. But I just thought it important to share that, you know, as a learning. So while some were bothered by getting that list, I think it was meant to be an eye opener for all of us. So I just kind of share that again. It was incredible because when they went in and did the improvements, nobody looked at these other things, which are no less important. Anyway, that was all I wanted to share.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. Next, we have Mayor Napoleon.
Thank you. I just wanted to share an update on our transportation in Wellington. In May, we launched our freebie service, which replaced our senior transportation ride program. And when we, on our old model, we had about 228 riders per month. We're now over 700 riders per month. It's tripled our capacity. We're still using 2 Teslas to drive around everyone 55 and older, anywhere within Wellington and just across the line to the hospitals that are in Royal Palm. So it's been a tremendous service and our residents love it. And more people are discovering it every day that never even knew it existed until they see the little cars driving around town and they call up and find out, what are those and how do I get on them? So it's been great.
Oh, that's excellent. All right, any other comments? Anything anyone wants to share? Nope. All right, we'll move right along to our executive director's report. Ms. Nelson.
Good morning, everyone.
I'm sorry, Chair Reed, Marcy Woodward raised her hand to make a comment.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Commissioner Woodward.
Good morning. Thank you. And thanks for allowing me to participate remotely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to give everyone an update. I had a meeting last week with my mayors and managers. And, you know, it was during the day on Friday, so actually only had one elected who was able to participate. I know most of you have all of your other jobs that are happening, but the meeting, I encouraged all of the city managers that came to also bring their engineers, their planners, their public works, IT, any additional staff to come to this meeting as we're looking at moving forward with this transportation master plan. I'm sure Mayor Reed will probably be able to give more information for everyone there and what we're working towards. Everyone, I mean, this is countywide. I say little C county because it's all of us, not county us. But I was just very encouraged that this meeting brought staff together because they're the ones that we need to help us get through this whole process. And it was encouraging to hear them talking to me as the county, but also them talking to each other. And there was, a couple of maybe spicy moments about cities not telling each other when a road project is going to start and how can we, encourage each other to have better participation and open communication, I guess, as these projects move forward. But it was very encouraging. I think I had almost 40 people show up, which was extended staff from a number of different cities. And it was exciting for me. And hopefully we can have more of these meetings in the future because it was interesting to have planners and engineers sitting next to each other, admitting that they don't always get to talk to each other this early in the process. Usually it's down the road. So I just wanted everyone to know it was a good meeting, and hopefully we have a number of these in the future. So thank you.
No, my microphone's acting. I think I have there we go. Thank you, Commissioner Woodward. Sorry, my microphone wasn't working. We really appreciate that, and your spirit of collaboration as a municipal mayor is really appreciated as well. And I do know that for my District 1, I think Commissioner Marino or Vice Mayor Marino is working on doing something similar. So thank you for leading the charge with it and giving us a nice path to follow. And as the cities and the county continue to work together for the betterment of the 1.5 million people who want to get around more easily, I'm really looking forward to learning more, all of us learning more about what each other are doing and putting it forward to make sure people can move around safely in our cities and our county together. So thank you. Perfect. All right. Anything else from anyone else? We'll move right in now to the executive director's report. Thank you.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone. And thank you, Commissioner Woodward, for letting us know. That's very exciting. Great to see county moving forward. And excited to collaborate and be a partner in their county master plan. Great to see everyone collaborating. And we have it here further down in the director's report, but we are also coming up on our draft long-range transportation plan update, which will be presented at our next board meeting in October, and then the final, which is required to be adopted by the feds in December. And that will be a really great, also, I think, parallel effort and launching pad for the county's transportation plan as well. So very exciting times. I wanted to mention and congratulate the Village of Wellington for the first municipality to officially adopt a Vision Zero action plan in our county. So that's very exciting. Congratulations. And also, I'm looking forward to seeing more municipalities get on board and have their plans. Also wanted just to remind, we are doing a board site visit to the Miami Intermodal Center on October 30th for our board members it's a tour that our counterpart is hosting for us with the Miami International Airport to look at and learn how they redid their kind of surface parking lots, their car rental facilities, and all of that into a intermodal center all of that's consolidated now, and they connected with Tri-Rail. This was in 2013, but it was a really great effort. So going there to learn more about that. Also, if anyone's interested or if you see people participating, Parking Day is celebrated worldwide on September 20th to 22nd. It's a global event to temporarily repurpose curbside spaces to convert them into public spaces for art and play. So that's exciting if anyone wants to participate in that. And then also Walk and Roll to School Day, National Walk to School Day is coming up. It's the 28th annual Walk and Roll to School Day, October 9th. So any day that week, the official day is that Wednesday, but any day that week, schools around our county, around the nation will be celebrating walking and biking to school safely. So on the Walk to and Bike to School website, you can find what schools are participating or encourage your local schools to register and participate. And there's a lot of resources there to plan an event. But we encourage everyone to walk safely, to celebrate, and to join their local schools in celebrating that. And then the Florida Department of Transportation is having their statewide mobility week, October 25th through November 2nd. And there's ways to get involved, to participate, for your local municipalities to participate. TPA will be doing a bike ride, more details to come for that. So we're looking at October 25th for that, if anyone wants to join us. And then we're also very excited to announce that we reached gold designation as a bicycle-friendly business. We were silver before, but we just renewed that and reached a higher level for becoming more bicycle-friendly business. Thank you to everyone who participated in the survey for feedback on how we're doing. And want to just continue to encourage our local municipalities, our businesses to pursue this designation. It raises awareness and encourages having people that visit or work at your in your municipality or at your business agency to bicycle and be more friendly. So nationally, there's over 1,300 bike-friendly businesses, and Florida has 167. So we have a couple here in this county. I know Councilmember Nachlas had mentioned she got a school on board. So that's exciting, but just continuing to encourage that. The next deadline is October 30th. So it's coming up for businesses and communities is in June. Very exciting also. So the Regional Safe Street Summit, which is a summit that's hosted by the 3 MPOs in Southeast Florida. We hosted it in 2018 in person, also virtually in 2021. We're collaborating with them, but to host it in West Palm Beach, the next one, and that's on February 6th and 7th. The actual summit will be at the Hilton West Palm Beach on Friday, February 7th, an all-day event. And we'll have the international and national speakers and highlighting local projects, best practices, things that are happening. So we encourage you all to come. And the afternoon of the day before, we have several mobile workshops, February 6th, a couple in Boca actually, and a few here in West Palm Beach as well. So registration is now open. And we encourage everyone to come. And I want to especially encourage our board members because your registration will be waived. You do need to register, but you need to mark that you're a board member. So there's no registration fee for you. I'm very excited about that. And then I mentioned our long range transportation plan that's still underway. More to come next month at our next board meeting. That's also in conjunction with the regional transportation plan. So because we're one urbanized area with Broward and Miami, we also have to do a regional transportation plan update. Both of these plans look out into the future, 20, 25 years, and they're federally required to be updated every 5 years. So that's what's happening right now. So that's exciting. And there's lots of ways to get involved. And at a bigger scale, the Florida Department of Transportation is also required to do a long range plan, and they're now looking out to 2055. They're kicking off that update, and they're actually doing 2 regional workshops in this part of the state, not necessarily in our county, but in Miami on September 24th. You can ride transit down. It's in downtown. So, and then also in Port St. Lucie on the September 25th. In addition, there's a virtual open house online open through September 27th. So you can also go online. You can take a survey, provide input. You can participate in their virtual open house at any time that's convenient for you. They really want to know what are the goals. What do people want to see in Florida, in this region? Are the draft goals that they've come up with in line with what people think or not? And what are the local desires? So now's the opportunity to provide input. And just a reminder that USDOT has the Grant Navigator to find grant opportunities. We recently had a couple more municipalities receive Safe Streets for All grants, so that's very exciting in this last round. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Do we have any board members that would like to comment on the executive director's report? I have Mayor Peduzzi. Yes, sir. Kresge. I've lost my mind. Sorry. I know. Sorry about that, guys. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Mayor Koretsky.
I learn something every day. I just learned that FDOT had a plan that was 5 years further than ours. So it's interesting because it'd be interesting to get the 2050 plan. Is that being used as input to our plan? Is that the way that works?
Yeah, so ours is wrapping up right now. It was a 1.5 to 2 year process. And so we have to adopt it by December. Draft is coming next month. FDOT is just getting started on the 2055 plan. So our plan will help inform that regional plan, but they're really looking at it as at a statewide scale. So our plan will inform their plan.
Well, I appreciate that, but their plan is a good starting point for our plan because they already were reached out to 2050.
Back and
That was
forth,
my
yeah.
point, right?
Exactly.
Thank
yes.
you.
All right, excellent. I apologize for that. Anyone else have a card that they want to put up or a question or comment? I just have one thing regarding the Safe Street Summit on February 6th and 7th. Now, the 6th is the mobile workshops and then the 7th being the actual meeting. Having it here in our county, I'd love to do a little peer pressure and see if we can get every single one of our board members there. So I'd like to throw out that gauntlet. I've gotten to personally attend this for several years, even back when I was on the Citizens Advisory for the TPA before I was an elected official. It's an extraordinary event. and Miami-Dade and Broward show up when they have it in their backyard. So now that it's in our backyard, I'm asking if everyone could please do your best to mark out your calendars now, show up. If you have people who are interested in this world, which who wouldn't be, please encourage them to come as well. So it is an extraordinary opportunity to connect and collaborate. Anything else? Any other cards? All right, so I'll see all of you guys there on the 7th for sure. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Is anyone pulling anything off of the consent agenda today? All right, so I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, if you could say your last name first, please, sir.
Spiritus, so moved.
All right, seconded by Napoleon, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll move right into our action items. The first action item is a motion to approve the roadway functional classification network. We've got Tony Nora from FDOT up to present this item. If you could come on up, sir. We'd love to hear about that. And afterwards, we'll ask for public comment and see if our board has questions or comments. Good morning. I'm so.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. My name is Tony Norad. I'm the planning manager for District 4, Florida Department of Transportation. And we're going to be presenting to you the functional classification. So let me see here real quick. So in 2020, the federal government completed the 2020 census. So how does the 2020 census impact the functional classification? The 2020 census data impacts the urban boundary and functional classification process by updating population counts every 10 years. The population changes are crucial because the urban boundaries are adjusted to reflect population densities and transportation needs. As urban boundaries area grows or shrink, the boundaries are updated to ensure that transportation planning and funding are aligned with the new data. This process helps ensure that functional classification of roads is accurate and supports the evolving needs of the urban boundary areas, allowing proper allocation of resources and funding. So with that said, I'm going to give you just a quick overview of what functional classification is, and then I'll introduce our partners from Caltrans. So the functional classification is a process or a method that's used to categorize roads and is based on how they serve transportation needs. It determines whether a road is mainly used for local traffic, connecting regional areas, or facilitating long distance travel. So why does this matter? The Florida Highway Administration requires that all roads be classified properly because this classification determines if they can receive federal funding for improvements. It's kind of like a qualification that roads need to meet to get financial help. This classification helps in the planning and funding road improvements. Not all roads qualify or are eligible for federal aid. The classification helps determine which roads can receive funding, especially those that serve more than just local traffic. So what's our role in the functional classification process? So at the beginning, FDOT conducts initial review and proposes classifications alongside our consultant partners from Caltrans. Then we pass it along to the cities and counties where they review and either concur or recommend changes to the proposed classification within their jurisdictions. From there, it moves to the MPO or TPA, where they approve the classifications by signing off on the official maps, finalizing the process at the regional level. And from there, it comes back to FDOT and FHWA, where we provide the final approval by signing off on the maps and ensuring all classifications align with state and federal funds or standards. With that, I'll go ahead and pass it along to Janelia from Caltrans, and she'll be able to speak a little bit more.
Thank you, Tony. Good morning, Governing Board. My name is Janelle Liu with Caltrans Group, along together with Tina McKinney. And we have been assisting the department in this effort from the beginning, it's done every 10 years. And so basically starts with the census and the adjustment or smoothing of this boundary provided by the census, and then it moves into the functional classification or the update of the functional classification. So Tony went through these slides, but I wanted to go back to this one. As you may recall, this was approved at the beginning of the year. So the census provided the urban boundary, and we adjusted or smoothed this urban boundary based on transportation facilities, transportation improvements. So it was pretty much based on transportation. And this is the result on the right-hand side of the 2020 smooth urban boundary. So the second step of this process is the federal functional classification or the adjustment of this road. So looking at all these roads, and we did it in a three-step process. So the very first process was to align this urban boundary with the functional classification or all the roads. And then the second step of the process was to analyze the entire county and looking at possibilities to change this functional classification of roads, whether we were going to bring it down or we were going to upgrade this functional classification. And this was done in collaboration with DOT, all the municipalities. We had a workshop back in July, so we worked together with all the municipalities to come up with the best functional classification for 2020. So the third step of this process was to look for local roads and look for roads that would have this potential of being upgraded to whether they were minor collectors or major collectors. So this graph, I really like this graph because this graph pretty much describes what the difference are among the different functionalities of the road. So you have your principal arterials, which will provide more mobility. You have your longer lengths, your higher speeds. And then you have your locals, which are more your residential streets that provide access to houses, and you have more land access. And then you have in between your minor arterials or your collectors. And that's what we use to analyze the entire system. So Tony went through this. And then this is a table that pretty much gives you an overview of what was changed during this process. So just to pinpoint two of the major changes that I just wanted to point out, US 98 changed from rural minor arterial to rural principal arterial. And you have County Road 880 changed from rural minor collector to rural major collector. And then you have others there that, but I just wanted to point those two out from that table. And these are the maps that we created. These are the maps that are going to be the maps that your board is going to be signing. We divided them into 3 different maps because of the extent of your county. So we have a northern, western, and eastern part of the county. And these are the maps that would be signed. And then right now, I wanted to say that we have relayed all this information to FHWA, and they have approved everything that has been submitted. So right now we have their approval. They're just expecting those final maps to be signed. And at this point, we would like to respectfully request your approval of these maps. Thank you. If you have any
There it is.
questions.
All right. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions, comments from the board at all? That's amazing. All right. We have no questions. Do we have any public comment regarding this item?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you. So I am seeking a motion and a second to approve the roadway classification network, please.
Baxter, so moved.
Thank you.
Drucker, second.
Oh, Baxter and Druxer, Baxter, I'm having a tongue twister morning. I apologize. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Very clear presentation. We'll move right along to our next item, which is the motion to adopt amendment number 1 to the TPA's fiscal year of 25 to 29, which is our transportation improvement plan. And we have Andrew here to present. Good morning. I got your name right. And oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Just where I want to be. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So this is the second action item for today. This is the first amendment to the current transportation improvement program. That's our 5-year funding of federal and state funds that go to our county. for transportation projects. And this amendment has a few things in it, different categories I'm going to explain. It has a lot of projects. It's something that we do every year in this first amendment. But for this specific amendment, we are adding a lot of projects, so that's why it triggers an amendment. And as a reminder, only the projects that are in this amendment are impacted. So we're not voting on TIP as a whole. It's just those that are listed in this amendment, although there are hundreds of them. So to break it down into what you're seeing in this amendment, the backup material had a summary and then online had the full product pages. But to break it down into three main categories, we have what is called the roll forward, and there's 188 products with that. It's taking funds from fiscal year 2024 that were not obligated and drawn down and rolling those phases into fiscal year 2025 to be completed. It also includes additional general appropriations of projects. There's 5 of those that were added. Those come through the state legislature. And so those weren't originally in the first adoption of the TIP. That happened afterwards in the budget process. And then lastly, we're adding in a new section to the TIP. We're required to show all the district-wide projects in our TIP as well. So there's 482 of those. So that's all of District 4, any district-wide projects. So that might be mostly related to Tri-Rail. It could be district-wide contracts for operations and maintenance. So a lot of products in there, but we're going to have it in a separate section of the TIP called district-wide. So the main part of this is what happens every year, and this happens statewide at every MPO across the state, and that is called the roll forward. And so that's taking unspent funds from the prior fiscal year, 2024, and it's rolling those phases into fiscal year 2025. That happens in bulk statewide. So you're going to see a lot of products move forward. There could be various reasons why this occurs. Some of the main reasons are either product delays, or they may have some unfinished phases. And so in the backup, we put it in order of largest to smallest for those phases for each project. And so you'll see the top ones could be higher costs, but it goes all the way down until just a couple dollars. So there's going to be a lot of products in there that are just a couple dollars of phases that are rolling into fiscal year 25. Could just be product managers needing to close out that project. So some of those are probably some lingering things to clean up, but it does happen in bulk statewide. And so that's why a lot of those are still in there. I'm only commenting on the roll forward. Again, there's the general appropriations products from the state legislature. There's the district-wide products in there. We also rolled forward the Palm Tran products, working with them on any of those products that need to be rolled into fiscal year 25 from 24. And then also wanted to make note of a new interactive map that we're still working towards, a dashboard. It's available on the website already, so you could actually go on there now to look at the amendment and all the products in there. And you can sort by the section, funding, lead agency, all those things. And so we'll also be maintaining this website for other items when it comes to products in the future. So product status and everything else. So it's going to be a great resource for us in the future. Just want to make note of that. And that's all I have for you. I can take any questions.
There we go. Thank you so much. Do we have any public comment, Ruth?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, so we have a card up from Mayor Koretsky, and I don't see any other ones up. Yes, sir.
Just a question from staff on the 5 legislative general appropriations that was added. Does that include on Indian Town Road?
Yes, sir. It's Western Indian Town Road. It's in there. It's also Green Acres, Chickasaw Road expansion, Central Boulevard, Central Palm Beach County infrastructure improvements for signals or for stormwater, downtown West Palm Beach signalization upgrades on Okeechobee Boulevard, and then West Palm Beach traffic signal hardening. So those are the 5.
Thank you.
All right, anybody out in Zoom land need to say anything? Are we all set? No? All right, no public comment, no further comments. I'm looking for a motion and a second to adopt amendment number 1 to the TPA's fiscal year 25 to 29 Transportation Improvement Program.
Baxter, so moved. Naklas, second.
Great job on the last names. All right. Let's go to vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Here, we
Yes,
will
sir.
need a-
You need a roll call.
Oh, we need a roll call vote? My mistake. All right, let's go for it.
Steve Wilson is absent. Yvette Drucker,
Yes.
Fran Naklas.
Yes.
Angela Cruz,
Yes.
Rob Long,
Yes.
Chuck Shaw is absent. Jim Koretsky,
Yes.
Ronaldo Diaz,
Yes.
Joni Brinkman,
Yes.
DeAndre Poole. Greg Wise is excused. Marcy Woodward,
Yes.
Sarah Baxter,
Yes.
Mike Bernard is excused. Glenn Spiritus,
Yes.
Jeff Hamara,
Yes.
Michael Napoleon,
Yes.
Christy Fox, Joseph Paduzzi,
Yes.
Maria Marino is excused. Chelsea Reed.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Motion passes unanimously with roll call vote. Lovely. All right. So that's enough of our action items for today. We're going to move on to our information items. We'll start with inviting Jonathan Hopkins from WPB Go up with just hello. Good morning.
Well, good morning, everybody. So good morning. I'm Jonathan Hopkins, the Executive Director of WPB Go. We're here to talk about TDM, which I know is everybody's favorite topic. But one of my goals today is that after we chat about this a little bit, it actually will be one of your favorite topics. And so we're going to talk about federal and state policy and actually how an audacious effort is going on right in our midst to move some of those forward. So first off, we hear this a lot in our community, like our roads are full. They're all full. We're done. They're full. And while that can seem true, it's really more of a question of how we use them. So this is a picture of 200 people. Takes up 5 lanes and 4 blocks of a city. But on a bus, it just takes up 1 lane and half a block. Or if it's an elevated or subway train, it takes about the same amount of space, but not even taking any ground. So TDM is really focused on kind of like this concept. And so you can see the math on this. This is math from NACTO. If you compare a car lane, just like an average lane on Okeechobee, can move 600 to 1,600 people an hour. But a busy bus lane, if it's just dedicated to buses with a bus every couple of minutes, can move 10 times that many people. So the way we move people in our cities is really just comes down to how efficient we are with our space. And everybody here, has a good understanding of that, but still sometimes it's striking to see the math. And so TDM is really about helping us make our roads more efficient. And so, when we look at population growth in our county, we're growing at 1 to 2% a year. And, the out years on this are just projections, but 1 to 2% a year. And TDM, when we think about TDM, it's asking the question of like, do we primarily expand roadways? Is that the only tool in the toolbox? Or do we expand some roads, some places where we need to, but do we also work on efficiency? So as we grow at 1 to 2% a year, what if we just shifted the folks that are most willing to help them ride the bus or ride a bike or walk because it's financially beneficial and everything else like that? So including number 2 as a planning tool. In some states, they require it for any, consideration of a roadway, expansion. But number 2, it's called TDM. It's a nationally recognized best practice. In fast growing cities, it's essential because you can't just up and change the roadway size, in a few minutes, as we've seen from like the tip, from the rollover of federal funds and everything else like that. You can't do capital projects in just an instant. And it also helps with economic growth and affordability. Some of the biggest companies, when they're expanding in cities, they expect programs like this to exist for their employees because they want to go to a place that not only can they bring their 500 employees or 1,000 employees, but if they're really successful, that they can have 5,000 employees there, 10,000 employees. So the state code recognized this. They call it TDM, Transportation Demand Management. It's the practice of helping your roadways become more efficient. I think about it as kind of like, sometimes we always like to use metaphors of what it's like for just a family in their regular life. Like if you host Thanksgiving 4 times a year, or sorry, that's hard. But if you host Thanksgiving like every 4 years and your house is really full, do you double the size of your house just to host Thanksgiving? Do we massively increase the size of our roads just for 1 hour a day? Or do we just try to find ways to make it more efficient? So that's what TDM is. And then TMAs are the organizations that aid the execution of TDM practice. So that's what WPB Go is. And we're going to talk quickly about, WPB Go, so the West Palm Beach Mobility Coalition. It's a public-private partnership. Good TDM is executed best in partnership with the public and private sector working together. Because just like many cities have DDAs there's a tragedy of the commons with respect to the public realm. And so you form a public-private collaboration called a DDA or a downtown association. Transportation has a Treasure Commons as well. And when we work together with the major employers and the government, we can actually make these efficiencies happen faster. And it's what everybody in government always wants, is like people working together on common cause. So these folks helped found the TMA. Most of them are funders, or the TPA is an in-kind collaborator. And then together we work on transportation issues, and we work on staying aligned on those issues so everybody is focused on the same obvious solutions when they exist. That TMA is doing a pilot in West Palm Beach with about 25 employers. It's kicking off as we speak, where we're going to work with 25 voluntary employers in the public and private sector, retail, hotels, white collar workers and offices. And by working with those employers, we'll reach 25 to 3,500 employees. So 10% of the workforce in downtown West Palm Beach. And we're going to test giving them incentives to try something different other than driving their own car. And we're going to measure the results with the same degree of focus that an accountant measures performance in a P&L. We do surveys before and after, and we measure what works in what sort of context and conditions. These incentives are not nothing. They're actually quite substantial. When you add up what any one employee could get, it's up to $600 in a month of free access to Palm Tran, free access to Tri-Rail if somebody's never ridden it before, free Bright Bike for 3 months, as well as awareness of existing programs that make life cheaper, like $5 off your Uber ride to and from Tri-Rail, or if the DDA moves forward with an e-bike lottery, making sure people sign up for that, because 90% of people who get a free e-bike use it in place of their car for most trips a year later. So we are going to focus on distributing those benefits, meeting employees where they are and meeting with all of them, ensuring they understand how to use their new benefits, just like when you have open enrollment for healthcare. Our focus is normalizing this with employers, because at some point in a growing community, transportation starts to affect the ability of employers to have reliable workforce, attract the best talent. So when you're not growing, employers don't have to worry about this. The road, it just works and people come. But as we're more successful, like, gosh darn it, people want to be here, right? You actually have to work together to solve problems. And so normalizing employer engagement on mobility is a key outcome here. Education and awareness of benefits is another. A third is that we measure performance. Just throwing things out there and not measuring it is not a best practice. We measure and then promote that ongoing investment in what works. So as I mentioned, this program is already ongoing. We will happily come back to the TPA sometime next year with some of the results. At the city and the county, some departments in the county are also involved as pilot participants in this, because they have limits on parking and everything else like that. So we'll start our first few employers this year for a 3-month stint, and then the balance of them will start in January and February with results out in Q2. So with that, happy to hand it over to Jeremy from South Florida Commuter Services, which is a key partner that we couldn't do this without.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board and staff. Okay, there we go. I'm not going to take up too much of your time today. Basically, I'm here in support of the TMA. So my name is Jeremy Mullings. I'm the director of South Florida Commuter Services, which is FDOT's TDM program for the South Florida region and the Treasure Coast. So our region is that we cover is actually Vero Beach all the way down to Key West. Really, really large area to cover. So we're fortunate to be able to partner with TMAs like WPB Go, because they are where the rubber hits the road. And, we can study as much data sets as we want. No one knows a community like the folks who live and work there. So it is beneficial to us as well, selfishly, that we get them to be on the road doing work for us. So I'm not here just because I like the guy. Statutorily, I'm required to be here. So South Florida Commuter Services, this chart I think tells a pretty decent story in how we function. We work directly with the traveling public, trying to encourage people, as John said, people who may be apt to getting out of their car or not buy a car, or maybe not drive that car every day to and from work. So we work directly with the public. We spend quite a bit of money on mass and social media advertising, as well as planning to help inform those decisions that we make and how we work with our partners. but we also provide resources directly to those folks who are where the rubber hits the road. Again, like the TMAs, like PalmTran, like the SFRTAs, and we work very closely with this TPA as well. So in doing so, I think we kind of have all bases covered. One of the parallels I like to draw with how we work with groups like TMAs is, we're not really selling anything, but in some respect, we are the wholesaler of transportation demand management, and they're the retailer of it. So we both want to get that message, want to get these products out to the general public, and in two different ways we get it done. Sometimes we are dealing directly with the public, sometimes through the TMA. But in doing so, we are able to function and hopefully offer some transportation options and choices to folks. So we're here to support John. Some of the projects and expenditures he mentioned on the previous slide, we're funding, and some of them we are going to be participating in very hands-on capacity as well. And we look forward to joining him next year if and how he's able to come back before you and report how the current pilot went. So with that, we're here to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any public comment?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, I see one card up so far with Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for being here. Thank you for the presentation. I have several questions for you, if you don't mind. So any preference on who takes those?
It's up to you.
Okay, either one. So how do you plan to incentivize the workplace, the employers to participate in the program and the employees to want to participate in the program?
So Commissioner Baxter, I think that's an absolutely great question. All of our participants are volunteers on the employer side currently. So we have hotels, we have restaurants. And when we did focus groups with them over the past year, they all said one of their biggest challenges was just getting people to work. A lot of restaurants in downtown West Palm Beach said, 5 or 7 years ago, a lot of their employees could walk or bike because they lived, a mile and a half away. And now they're coming a county or two away, which is a long ways to go for the paycheck if you're like a barista or like serving down here. So they've recognized it affects their ability to attract talent. And so they do all want to be part of the solution. So we are offering them like easy help with these solutions. Our support is free. And so we have a bunch of eager employers. With the employees, the number one and number two ways to affect people's mode choice is cost and convenience. How much does it cost me and how long does it take? So like faster burst service, suddenly more people ride it, for example. So we are changing the financial equation for a couple months to get people to see, hey, if I take a couple trips on this different mode, do I like it? Will I carry it for the long term? Since cars cost about $1,000 a month, if we can help some families, like this doesn't work for every family, but for some families, if they can go from 3 cars to 2 or 2 to 1, that's like a 20% pay bump for the average Palm Beach County family. So this starts to have like real impacts. Again, it's not for everybody, but we are just looking for the 1 to 2% that over the course of the next year, it could be valuable.
And again, forgive me, but so are we talking about them going to a bus stop? Or are we talking about them? How is this going to work?
So Commissioner Baxter, this is really about creating, we have a bunch of different agencies that provide transportation services and private sector providers. Our job is to be customer centric and help them find something that works for them. In some cases, what works for them is and always will be their car by themselves, maybe taking their kid to school on the way. But others want there to be like a van pool if just somebody could help put it together. So we're there to help put it together because they want that, like parking, let's say in downtown, the town of Palm Beach is charging parking rates and they have tons of employees that now can't afford to drive there anymore. They would love to have a van pool or a way to find somebody to carpool with. We play this intermediary, this informational intermediary that helps match them with other van pools or give them tools to find carpools. For some people, it is riding the bus. For some people, they might win an e-bike and they find that their trip's only 3 or 4 miles and they really like it because they get to do gym and commuting all at the same time. It's not about one solution because it's like a medley event. It's like a swimming relay that's a medley event. Like different people do different things. And it's about just finding something that works for them. And again, what works for many people will be doing exactly what they did yesterday. We're looking for the 1 to 2%.
And how are we getting the message out there to let them know this is a possibility?
So this is where that partnership with employers is absolutely incredible. You know, if somebody from your HR team emails out a policy, there's usually about like 10 or 15% compliance, but if the CEO says it, there's about 65% compliance on things like this. We just, I mean, mayors in the room know that, you know, to some degree, like leading from the front on this sort of thing. And commissioners do. So in this way, we actually go meet with all the employees and employer. In some cases, it might be digitally. In others, it will be in person alongside their leadership. And we match the information that we give out with their internal company culture and usually get their endorsement and validation of the stuff we're doing. So it will get attention. And again, people get to save money, you know, so it will have their attention, but it's that partnership we're working with, not against or through. You know, we're working with those partners.
And how much do you expect this to cost?
So the benefits that we're providing, it's about it's costing people inside the county essentially nothing.
How do you explain that?
So these are doing benefits that in a couple of the cases being provided by FDOT through South Florida Commuter Services. And then, you know, we've had contributions from the city, the DDA, and private sector, you know, major employers that support our organization, which is a nonprofit. In our report, we'll look at the ROI of all of these programs. But fundamentally, the US DOT has already done the math. They say that programs like this are 5 times less costly for the same amount of capacity gain as capital improvements on roadways. So that's a national data point. And what we're doing is bringing in best practices. And again, it's for like congested areas. So is this a perfect program for Belglade? No. And Jeremy.
Can I add to that, please?
Of course.
And so from a South Florida Commuter Services standpoint, we're representing FDOT. So when a TMA is formed like this one or others throughout the region, we make that recommendation to the DOT as to whether or not they should recognize them as that TMA per Florida statute and give them the benefits that come with it. Largely what we look for is that partnership with the private sector. We're not going to support a TMA unless there is that private sector support, and it has to be significant and demonstrated commitment financially. So we too had a focus group recently that we partnered with South Florida Business Journal. It's actually out in one of their publications right now, by the way. And I walked away from that convinced that employers do care about how their people get to and from work. And if it's selfish or what have you, there is a direct correlation between your vibe when you walk into the office and your productivity that day. And we identified a lot of employers, large and small, who do contribute to how their employees get to and from work. And we learned small lessons. For example, when we asked them, do you guys offer commuter benefits? They said no, but they do offer flexible schedules, compressed work weeks, which we call commuter benefits. So in some cases, we just need to speak the right language as those folks. But back to your original point, yes, so regardless of what this particular pilot or what the endeavor will cost over time, if the private sector is not there with financial resources and manpower to make it work, we wouldn't support it, and we wouldn't think that the organization or their efforts are viable. So you do need both. And whatever the cost may be, the private sector has to be convinced that there is value in it. And we give that a lot of weight.
Well, 2 parts to this, if
Sure.
you don't mind. So it looks like the program does rely upon already publicly funded transportation,
Yes.
a lot of it. And so where you see those gaps as far as organizing carpools is those vans, for instance, you were referencing. Where do those come from? Talking about individuals that have vans and people picking them up?
From our standpoint, and whatever we have available to us, the TMA and other TMAs also have available. But we're smelling smoke. But yeah, so we do offer ride matching, which so if everyone in this room decides, you know, it would be nice to carpool, we give you the ability to go on our portal and it will identify other folks who have similar commuting patterns as yourself and allow you to contact each other that way. Nothing is mandated. It all comes down to what your preference is. So we do spend money on mass media advertising as well as social media, trying to highlight the benefits of using some of these other modes. But by no means we're not trying to vilify anyone. You want to drive, drive. But hopefully we can show you that there might be some value in taking some of these other transportation options. There's the Vanpool program offers state and federal subsidy.
I think we're all worried about the smoke.
Yeah, so
We need to make sure that we don't need to be concerned. Okay.
Sure.
We have staff checking on it sometimes, but we do sometimes have like the smells from outside come in through the vent. So, but they're checking on it. They went outside to check.
Yeah, we're fine. Just, I don't want you guys to get distracted. So just hang in there 1 second.
If there were a fire, the fire alarm would go off. So.
Who's giving the money to? Hotel to give up $50,000 to subsidize. That's where it really
Well,
comes
they
down.
might actually be willing to do that if they let their employees in the situation. So for instance, I'm having this problem. We have all these new businesses going up. There's no workforce or affordable housing. So they need transportation. But at the same time, like, it's, you'll see, it's my last question. Like, what does it mean? What's that?
Doesn't smell like fire outside. It doesn't smell like it outside. It's only in here.
Oh, you gotta get a driver off, open up the station. Putting in, forest development. Not a good sign.
Yeah, these are the worst ones. No, again, no.
Trying to, yeah, that's what we're sure, well, we gotta get them to go off the tracks. But hopefully they'll do it. I forgot.
Favorite marshmallow?
Use the restroom while we're.
Let's make sure we're all safe before we celebrate making jokes.
All right, crisis averted so far. As soon as we have a quorum, we'll return. Let me know, Ruth. Making me crave barbecue. I don't know about you guys.
There is a barbecue place across the street. So sometimes that smell does come in when they're
All right,
grilling.
well, maybe next time they can deliver before they give us the smell. Yeah. Ruth, let me know when we're there. We're okay to go? All right. Let's reestablish our meeting. I apologize. We'll wait for Commissioner Baxter to return so we can finish her line of questioning, but if it's, if we could, why don't we go ahead to Mayor Koretsky and we'll come back to Commissioner Baxter after that. Yep.
There were just a few things. Number one, I was going to share, this sounds like an exciting opportunity. You know, I worked for FPL for 40-something years in Juno Beach, and being a large employer, I've seen all of this work. You know, carpools, van pools, and really, as a large employer, when the company got involved coordinating, we were introduced to people that we wouldn't have otherwise known to connect up for carpooling, and then the van pool opportunity became available, and then, you know, so I think it'll be really successful because you're connecting smaller employers to, you know, an equivalent population area. So if you can make that connection happen, that's great. At FPL, they also had preferential parking because so that we all of us, of course, it's good exercise. So I didn't mind parking on the outer end, but you know, you'd have to let closer to the doors the people that were doing the right thing, carpooling and van pooling. So it kind of sent a message as well. Interestingly, you know, I had met with Jupiter Medical Center, which is the largest employer in the town in the last year, because I was inquiring about making sure what their interest was with, you know, Tri-Rail, which may come some decade our way. And it was interesting that they were not aware of some of these programs. I use that as an example. That's a large, and I had tried to connect them, you know, up with like the program because they saw their core work population was two groups. One that was to the south and then one that was, to the north. And so I know that efforts are being made to, and from affordable housing, this is a necessary, not only for traffic, but necessary for quality of life. So, kudos. I think it's a great program. And just lastly, I was delighted mostly with the photo you had of where you showed the road and you showed the population of people as if they were in a bus or as if they were in cars. And with that, I'd like to somehow leverage that. Or if you use that again, take a shot of outside of a public school at drop off and pickup.
I did yesterday.
Because that's exactly what I thought about, because if we ever could get families to accept public buses, which is the best mass transit you're ever going to have, because they come nearer to you, you can't argue that, and timely and whatever, and yet families don't use the buses, right? So if we can, seriously, we ought to I've always thought that way. And I'm going to try to get with our school board representative. Maybe the district could help by somehow promoting mass transit more to youth and their parents. I mean, seriously, I know this is outside of what you're doing here, but if we're not going to really get there, until the kids really embrace it, we're going to always be challenged.
Some of the places that make the fastest progress on improving their bus system and having high ridership growth starts out with university students who are usually cost conscious. And then also with like high school students. In many places, a quarter of the afternoon traffic that we see in, like, raise your hand if you like more traffic, right? Everybody. A quarter of the traffic we see in the afternoon is people moving their kids somewhere. A lot of that's because you don't have neighborhood schools anymore and different things like that. But that is a huge impact upon congestion. Our job is just like, some people have to drive and freight has to drive. Our job is to make sure there's less bumpers ahead of you, not more. But the types of programs you mentioned are best practices. And we are talking to our university partners, and also happy to talk to the school district about components of that. But those are all best practice.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're going to move back to Commissioner Baxter, and then after that, we'll go Fox, Brinkman, and Hamara.
Thank you, Chair. My last question was, what does success look like for you with this program? Like, how would you judge its failure versus success, let's say over the next year or so?
I think that's a great question, Commissioner. So the success in this is simply that we identify some tools that employers, employees, and employees like, and that the data shows has a positive ROI. So, we're going to do surveys before and after. How are you traveling before? How are you traveling while you got free stuff? And then our prediction, because it's worked every place else, is after the incentive goes away, some number of people will stick with their newfound behavior. And so it doesn't take, like forever funding from, different parties, public and private. Sometimes the employers will find that they want to invest like in free bike share access. So you can get to lunch or whatever if you're in West Palm Beach, or a reduced bus passes. There's some cities where places like where Microsoft and Amazon have large presences, that over 50% of the bus rides are paid for by their employers because they realize that's the only way they can get all their employees to work. Again, this is for fast growing super urban areas. But those, like, the employers are voting for this, that they can't do business without it in many of those cases. So we're just going to test out what works here. And success is seeing that some of the solutions do, and being able to report back in a credible, data-driven way on what those are.
And the return on investment, not necessarily dollars, but getting cars off the road.
We'll look at both, because we'll find that some tools work well with retail, different tools work better with like white collar workers. And what did we spend on it? And can you measure like the overall cost savings? If you take it to a really high aggregate and you expand the program broadly based upon that data point, you'll be able to see how much lane miles you don't have to expand your roads by. And so then you can do a fair ROI, trade-off.
Thank you.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. We'll move along to Commissioner Fox, please.
Thank you so much. This was not going to be my original question, but just a comment based on Mayor Koretsky's comment. I know that you're just sort of working on a pilot program, but I live across the street from the Dreyfus School right over here. And since you're focusing a lot on downtown. If you were to drive on Tamarind at 4 o'clock, or Sapadilla, it is the line wraps around, the corner all the way back to Okeechobee, with the parents picking up. And so, I love the idea of, if we're going to focus on a school or just a pilot program downtown, that would be a great place to start, because the traffic headaches just from the parents picking up right there downtown, it's incredible. And then, with all the things that are coming, Vanderbilt, other, projects that are happening on Fern Street right near the school, that's only going to become more congested. But my original question was, I know we're focused more on getting people out of cars, taking transit. I live downtown, I walk everywhere, but I know that's not convenient for everyone to get downtown without a car. So you mentioned a little bit about how, we have a 9 to 5 kind of work for the most part, the uniform work hours. And so I'm curious if there's any either incentives or just kind of collaboration with the businesses that you're working with, that other than transit and giving out, passes and things like that, just more discussion about whether or not they could change their work hours in order for the traffic patterns to change for those who cannot take another form of transit. Thanks.
Mr. Cox, I think it's a great question. So each company that we work with, we do a kickoff meeting with their leadership, and then we explore the different sorts of tools that'll be useful for them, and see if anything's not going to work. So flexible work hours is a component of that. We see other cities outside of our county in South Florida also looking at these things. Miami Beach has the same sort of problem with like retail and hospitality workers. So we look at the full array of potential options that include that. And we're also looking at carpool and van pool. It's not and bike share and e-bike incentives. So we have a lot of downtown workers. If they work in a restaurant, they might be getting off at 8 p.m. or 2 a.m. and figuring out like what are the right modes that can help them get both ways. The bus certainly is not running at 2 a.m. So our goal is to come with a buffet of options and see the ones that fit. And we're intentionally having government workers, private sector 9 to 5 workers, retail workers, restaurant workers, hospitality workers, all part of this, because the toolkit is going to vary by the employer type. And we want to be able to come back and, have some keys to, like, what are the keys to the kingdom to figuring this stuff out, with these different employer types and our kind of like transportation context.
Set? Okay, thank you. We'll move right along to Vice Mayor Brinkman, and then after that, Vice Mayor Hamara.
Thank you. I would be interested, since this is a pilot program, of being updated over time as to the hard results of it, because I know you say it's voluntary, but what I see happening is as different jurisdictions are adopting their own mobility plans, and you have new employers come into the area, new residential development, increase in existing development, that we're going to be seeing TDM strategies adopted and codified that are going to be applied to employers and developers. And so to have a benchmark of if a TDM strategy is saying, okay, you're increasing traffic by this much, you have to buy 50 bus passes every month and give it to your employees. But if only 10 employees use it, that's what we need to find out, because it needs to be equitable too. So I just wanted to bring that up, because I think that's back to Commissioner Baxter's question about how is this going to be paid for? I think eventually it's not going to be voluntary. So I just wanted to bring that up.
I think that's a great question, and I'm thankful, because I forgot to mention something during my presentation, that the TPA thankfully has been working on a framework that can, be scaled to work for small cities or big ones, that help, make whether it's recommendations, incentives, or requirements on developers, employers, major events, and having kind of like a framework so cities don't have to do all the work from, square one to figure out, okay, what could a TDM policy be? So similar to other things that have been rolled out here as a countywide framework that people can adopt if it suits their city. So that also will be a tool that is available to all cities in the county within the next few months.
Excellent. Thank you, Vice Mayor Hamara.
See if I can get my mic on. There we go. Okay, well, thank you for the presentation. And I think this pilot is going to be very interesting. We, of course, know the businesses are interested in the bottom line, quantitative kinds of evaluations of alternatives that allow them to wind up with a reliable workforce. Pretty compelling if the numbers actually show that. But there's also a qualitative side. And one of the things that comes clear whenever you talk to folks as they get more and more concerned about our growing traffic congestion is the impact on their quality of life. And I know you all have heard me talk about, I've had the experience, I know how impactful it can be. And so as you gather information in these pilots, I would encourage you to make sure you gather some qualitative, even if they're anecdotal statements about the exposure to alternatives, comments like, I would have never thought it would work this well, or other things, because I found myself making those statements. And I've said before, my initial idea was you'd have to pry my cold dead hands off of my steering wheel to get me out of my car. And lo and behold, I didn't have to take it to that extreme. I did get out and found alternatives. But the exposure and the incentive to try things is powerful. So I'd be interested in hearing something about this on an ongoing basis and then qualitatively.
So I think, Miramar, that's a great piece of input that we will be collecting information like that about what their experience was. And we're also going to be collecting information like what's the mode that you would try other than your current primary mode, and what's your main blocker to that? Is it, you want a bike, but it doesn't feel safe, you need a bike, or all those different things. And then there's like some broad national data. Most of these modes are safer than driving. People that live too far of a drive away, they have higher divorce rates. There's a bunch of different quality of life measures that, because you have a stressed morning and a stressed evening, commuter rail riders and walkers are the happiest because it's hyper unstressed, and so, and also like we have some pretty unsafe roads. It's safer to drive on a road in Colombia than it is to drive on a road in Florida. We send the population of St. Petersburg to the hospital every year on our roads. In Palm Beach County, we send the population of Belle Glade to the hospital every year, and we lose a couple hundred people. If we were Norway, which also has long rural roads, which are very unsafe, like population wise, we would save, 160 of those lives. So to me, like the number one measure of quality of life is number one, live. And then the other things also very, very much matter. So this does in weird ways touch a bunch of different parts of people's lives. But our goal is to be customer centric and help people find what works for them. And so that's what we'll do.
And I will add, sir, that the way we look at it and the way we kind of encourage our partners like TMAs, transit agents, and so forth is I don't think the qualitative stuff is anecdotal. Our program, we operate a call center. We speak directly to thousands of folks every day, either on the phone, through email, or social media. So we hear a lot of comments that you traditionally don't see collected in your typical transit data collection. And it kind of forces us to adopt a saying that if all we're talking about is time and distance, we might as well be talking about cargo, not people. So there's a lot more going on in that decision to ride public transportation than, is the bus on time? And it puts us in a situation to have some uncomfortable conversations with our transit partners, because we say the things that a lot of folks really don't want to say regarding the realities of what a tough sell it is sometimes if you own a car to get you to park that car and jump on local fixed route transit. So we have to have those conversations. And fortunately, we are a part of FDOT, so we do have a voice in FDOT. And we like to think that the qualitative points that we bring to the table are considered when they're making decisions on how to implement and fund transit. So I'll give kudos to Palm Trend here. They're about to roll out a premium service that we're 100% behind, bringing folks from the Treasure Coast into employment centers here downtown. So we believe that's a model type of transit service. They have similar services in Broward County, which FTA calls a benchmark. So we're also looking forward to that being rolled out next week. And and we're partnering with them on it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Thanks so much. Moving along to Deputy Mayor Drucker, please.
Thank you for the presentation. So I just wanted to go back to what Commissioner Fox said earlier. So one of the things we brought up in even our city is it's more district. I know you're working with the private private and the employees, et cetera, but some of those employees obviously have children. And because of the district having the 2-mile radius, for example, they're all these parents that are getting in their cars, driving their children every day because they don't have a bus. And we know that a 2-mile radius, it's a long way for an elementary child to get on our roads, especially if there's that bike lanes that are dedicated. You're riding, the weather inclements. So I think for us to think outside of the box, for us up here that are just thinking, I'm thinking forward, approving projects, approving policy and big development sometimes, to hold those private entities accountable to invest in the infrastructure, maybe partner with the districts in order to offset some of that cost. So, how great would it be if Palm Tran has a route that picks up in multiple country clubs or communities or apartment buildings, and they get to drop off their child and then they get to go on the route to work. So just thinking more of a bigger picture, the program is great because you're starting here, and I'm curious to see the pilot results, but also working with the public sector as well and the private sector to offset that cost for the future, and how you're going to be able to impact. Because if I know that I always had to drive my kids because I live next to 3 school zones that are literally not walking distance, but I couldn't get the bus. And I know that happens in a lot of our communities in the county because a lot of them are enclosed gated communities. So just food for thought. Thank you.
I'll jump in. Thank you so much for the presentation. We're excited to partner with you guys, be a part of this conversation, see the results. And as Jonathan mentioned, the TPA has been working on a model TDM policy, and we're going to be hosting, we'll be doing a workshop so we can dive into this further, but it'll be a toolkit of solutions. Again, as was mentioned, we're trying to target, even if it is a 1 or 2% shift, that does make a difference when you're talking about thousands of people. So we're looking forward to sharing that with everyone soon and having a more deeper workshop with solutions so that we can see what works. One size doesn't fit all, so they might be different in each municipality, but we're looking forward to sharing that with you soon. And I also wanted to mention, I kind of skipped over it. I mentioned the board site visit to the Miami Intermodal Center, but we're also doing a board mobile tour to the Palm Beach International Airport. We did this 2 years ago. We're going to be, one of our strategic plan items this coming year is doing site visits to some of our local transportation. We're coordinating with the port as well to go visit them. So if you want to participate again, or if you didn't get to participate last time, and you would like to go have a behind the scenes tour, the link is on here. We'll be sending an email as well, but I kind of blended the two together. So lots of opportunities to get involved.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan and Jeremy, for coming today. And I think if after all these comments, the workshop is going to be something we're all going to be really interested in as well as hearing your data and the excitement about a replicable system that we can all utilize. So thank you. Excellent. Did we have anyone from public come back or Zoom land at all?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, excellent. So we'll move along to our partner agency updates. We're excited to hear from Palm Tran today. We have Yash Nagal here.
Hey, good morning. First of all, I want to thank Jeremy and Jonathan both for their fiery presentation that they had today. As an update for Palm Tran, this is a really exciting time to be at Palm Tran. We're going to 5 modes from 3 modes starting Monday. So we have right now our regular fixed route bus, our paratransit service, our GoGlade service. And then starting Monday, we're also going to start the Port St. Lucie Express from St. Lucie down to here as a commuter service. I want to thank our Board of County Commissioners too for their leadership, because this project required a lot of participation from the public, from leadership. So we're very excited to launch this event. I would say in my 6 or 7 years at Palm Tran, I have never seen a project that has received this amount of public engagement. So I'm very excited that that's about to happen. We've also kickstarted with the help of FDOT a sort of a transitionary period for our bus link service, which is another mode of service that we're going to start. And the way the service works is we're incorporating for the first time the use of TNCs into the Palm Tran service to maybe a little bit solve the first and last mile problem that we talked about earlier today too, where they can utilize the Uber voucher or a taxi voucher to potentially connect to the fixed route system. This voucher will be $8. So the way it serves its purpose is you can take it from your house to an existing bus stop, and then you can do the reverse of that too. So it's really targeted towards the first and last mile function. What we're also doing starting Monday is we're working on our fixed route frequency. So our Route 3 would be running every 20 minutes instead of every 30 minutes. This route runs on Military Trail, and it touches 6 out of the 7 commission districts. So it's a really long route. And one of the reasons we chose this was because it was going to benefit so many different people. And there's some other frequency improvements there too. I'll keep it at that for my update.
Excellent. Real quick, any public comments, anything from Commissioner
Madam Chair.
Woodward, and we do have a card up. I'm sorry, Commissioner Fox, I believe. Oh, and then after that, we'll move on to Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I have heard so much about the St. Lucie Express as well. I'm just wondering if you could remind us, how does that work? I wondering, what happens if your bus gets filled up on the first day and there's like 50 people waiting? Is it the kind of thing that you're planning to add service, or is it something that people are buying like a pass in advance that they're going to be on it every day? Or if you could just remind us how
Sure.
the ridership works.
So right now, the way it's set up right now is similar to FoodStroud, where the person would just go there and automatically pay for the fare when they get on the bus. We do have some backup options for that first trip that we're gonna do, just because we don't know how the service is gonna open. So if something like that happens, we would have a backup option in St. Lucie. But for the regular trips, it's a digital pass basically. So it's digital only. You can do it from your phone through Paradise Pass, $3 a trip. So you just go there, you tap your phone. That's about it. Or Paradise Pass if you have it.
Absolutely. All right, great. Commissioner Baxter?
See if I can get this to work. Thank you, Chair. We also discussed at the board, the ability to pay the difference. Say the voucher, you didn't want to go just to a bus stop, but it was further. Is that being incorporated on Monday as well?
You mean if they run over the $8? Yeah,
Correct.
they would be able to pay the remaining. So they could still use the trip. They would get $8 from us, and then they would pay the difference of whatever, if it goes over $8, yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Vice Mayor Hamara, please.
Time delay. So we have just begun to experience the voucher program, the Bus Link in Royal Palm Beach. And in addition to asking you if you've got any early feedback, I'd be interested in that. But I will say there's been a little confusion about the end-to-end aspect of it. I thought I just heard you say that you can be picked up at your house, and so long as you are your destination is a bus stop, and I think if I read the numbers correctly, 800 feet from any bus stop, as a rough approximation, that this voucher program applies.
Right.
But
Either
and
your
I-
origin or destination.
Yeah,
has
some
to
of
be
the
bus
language
stop.
I've seen on flyers and things like that kind of led me to believe that you needed to be from bus stop to bus stop. So if you clarify that for me, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, yeah, so it has to be either your origin or destination has to be a bus stop or around the bus stop.
Okay.
So if you were taking it from the bus stop to your house, that's the last mile problem. If you're taking from your house to the bus stop, that's the first mile problem.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I've had at least one individual come up to me and say, well, my kid used to ride the bus. And we were kind of just talking about that a moment ago. But I'm concerned about their safety and security in an Uber, maybe even a taxi, I guess, because those are the two systems. You have any comments about that?
So we, as a part of having the program to be FTA compliant, we had to have an option where the rider can choose an option that is both, where the operator is drug and alcohol tested and is wheelchair, and the ride has to be wheelchair accessible. So we do have a taxi option if someone has concerns of using the Uber app. We also recommend people to connect to a bus when they're using the system, so you don't do your whole ride on Uber. We want the intent really to be, you take it as first or last mile and connect to a fixed route system, especially because we don't really want you to pay like a larger fare unless you really have to. So we want the voucher to be able to pay for a little bit of your journey to get to the bus. So we still want people to utilize the fixed route system as much as possible. The intent of this program is just for the person to be able to get to the stop.
Okay, I appreciate that. But so your comment though, with regard to a child's safety, is that taxi systems have more extensive background
Yes, they do.
investigations and that type of stuff. And so the safety is likely to be greater than perhaps something like Uber. Okay, thank you.
Don't see any other cards. Following up on Vice Mayor Hamara's question, so that is, this taxi service is something that is utilized frequently in the transit disadvantaged world. So can you speak about the safety of it as it's already been utilized for folks who are transit disadvantaged in the county and have been using it already?
So they've been using a different provider. We have a taxi option, but the provider we have is not the same as a paratransit provider.
Right.
But yeah, it would work similar way where the paratransit person, when they get on this taxi trip, they have to have extensive drug and alcohol testing too.
And that's been utilized already within the county? I know that's something.
In the paratransit part, yes.
In the parat,
Yes,
so I'm
yes.
just kind of trying to do an apples to oranges comparison to some
Correct.
extent. Like we do have some riders who are already currently utilizing a system that is a taxi that's been vetted, and these
Right.
are transit disadvantaged riders. So you know, you can say this is a similar system to what the kids might possibly do.
Correct.
So it's not the first time the county has encouraged
Right,
ridership
right.
like
As a part of the paratransit options, the rider can choose to be on U-Serve, which is a type of taxi, or they can do a similar voucher system to Lyft. So it's a similar program where instead of riding the traditional service, they're riding something else. And the reason is the same, is those other trips are cheaper for us to operate than the major trips.
Great. All right. Any other questions? Any comments from the public again, or Commissioner Woodward?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For coming to present. We really appreciate it. We'll move right along to just a few administrative items, and we have, as our executive director mentioned, quite a lot of opportunities to get involved. There's a couple of other things that you can take a look at. Our next meeting is October 10th. And my one ask is between now and October 10th, if everybody could please register for the Safe Street Summit, that would be great. It's easy to do. If you have any issues, let the staff know and they'll take care of it for you if you guys don't mind. And with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Look at that, efficiency. I know the microphones are not